The call came at 3 in the morning, my mother's voice cracking through the speaker like thin ice. Alara, please. I wouldn't ask if. It's the middle of the night, Mom. I pressed my fingertips against the window, watching raindrops race down the glass. 2 years of silence, and now this. Your sister needs you. My laugh came out harsh, startling even me. Serafina has everything she needs, doesn't she? She's in trouble. Real trouble this time. Mom's breath hitched. And before you say no, there's something you should know about Thorn. Don't. The name still burned, like swallowing glass. I have a meeting tomorrow. I can't do this right now. The business is gone, Alara. Everything. They're about to lose the house. I watched my reflection smile in the dark window. 2 years ago, I'd stood in my wedding dress while my sister helped adjust my veil, both of us laughing. Hours later, I found them together in the garden, her lipstick on his collar, his hands where they had no right to be. Good, I said, meaning it. Gideon's had a heart attack. The words hung there, heavy and accusing. Dad had always favored Serafina, even after everything. He'd called her mistake understandable, just two people falling in love at the wrong time. As if betrayal could be excused by timing. Is he? He's stable. But he's asking for you. Mom's voice softened. We all miss you, sweetheart. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass. Outside, the city lights blurred through the rain, creating halos that reminded me of wedding rings and broken promises. I'll think about it, I said finally. That's all I'm asking. She paused. There's more you need to know, but not over the phone. Just.
Come e Lara.
Please. After she hung up, I stood there for a long time, watching the rain. My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. I know you hate me, but there's something you deserve to know about that night.
S.
I deleted it without responding, but sleep didn't come again that night. The maple tree still stood in our front yard, its branches reaching toward my childhood bedroom window. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, while early morning light painted shadows across the familiar white colonial. 2 years away, and nothing had changed, except everything. Mom opened the front door, before I could knock. You came. Her silver hair was messier than I remembered, her smile tentative. She reached for a hug, but stopped short when I stepped back. I'm here for Dad, I said, following her inside. The house smelled of coffee and something else, antiseptic maybe. Hospital scents that didn't belong here. He's in his study. She hesitated. Alara, about Serafina. Don't. I moved past her, my heels clicking against hardwood floors that had witnessed countless family dinners, celebrations, betrayals. Dad sat in his leather chair, looking smaller than I remembered. The heart monitor beside him beeped steadily, an intrusive reminder of mortality. His eyes lit up when he saw me, then dimmed with something like shame. Princess, he said, using my childhood nickname. You look well. You look terrible. The words came out sharper than intended, but I didn't apologize. He chuckled weakly. Always direct, just like your mother. His hand trembled as he gestured to the chair across from him. There's something you need to know about Thorn's company. I don't care about. He embezzled money. Dad's words cut through my protest. Used it to cover gambling debts. Your sister didn't know until it was too late. The revelation hit like a slap. Not because I cared about Thorn's crimes, but because Dad's tone held more concern for Serafina than anger at the man who'd nearly destroyed both his daughters. And you're telling me this because? Because they're facing criminal charges. Both of them. He leaned forward, wincing. Your sister needs a lawyer. Someone who understands corporate law.
Someone like me.
Of course. I stood up, my laugh bitter. That's why you wanted me here? To save them? To save your sister, he corrected. The rest. He glanced at something behind me. I turned to find Serafina in the doorway, her designer clothes replaced by a simple sweater, her face pale and drawn. Our eyes met, and for a moment, I was back in that garden, watching my world shatter. Hello, Alara, she whispered. I can explain everything. Mom led us to the kitchen, where financial documents covered the usually pristine granite counters. I stood at the edge, refusing to sit, while Serafina perched on a bar stool, her fingers tracing the rim of an untouched coffee mug. 8 million, Mom said, sliding a bank statement toward me. That's how much Thorne lost before anyone noticed. I picked up the paper, my legal training kicking in despite myself. Where did it go? Underground poker games, mostly. Serafina's voice cracked. High-stakes tables in private clubs. I thought he was networking with clients. The numbers told a story of desperation, massive withdrawals, transferred funds, forged signatures. I recognized some of the techniques from cases I'd prosecuted. You're facing serious time, I said, satisfaction warming my chest. Both of you. I didn't know. Serafina's eyes met mine, red-rimmed but steady. I swear, Elara. Not until last month, when the FBI showed up at our door. Mom touched my arm. I flinched away. Honey, there's more. Show her, Sarah. Serafina pulled an envelope from her purse, hand shaking. Inside were photos, surveillance shots of Thorne meeting with men I recognized from case files. Known criminals. Loan sharks. The kind of people who didn't send late payment notices. They're threatening him, Serafina whispered.
Us.
They came to the house last week. That's why Dad. The heart attack. The timing suddenly made sense. He tried to help us. Serafina's voice broke. Offered them everything he had. But it wasn't enough. I laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet kitchen. So now you want my help? After everything?
No.
Serafina stood, wobbling slightly. I want you to help Mom and Dad. They mortgaged the house for us, used their retirement fund. When this goes public, they'll lose everything. The ultimate betrayal, not just destroying my life, but our parents too. I turned to leave, but Mom's next words froze me in place.
There's one more thing, she said.
The FBI agent handling the case? It's Marcus Chen, my ex-partner. The one person who knew what really happened the night before my wedding. The night that changed everything. Now you understand, Serafina said softly. Why it has to be you. Marcus Chen's office hadn't changed. Same industrial carpet, same fluorescent lights that made everyone look guilty. I sat across from him, studying the man who'd been my mentor before everything fell apart. You could have told me you were handling their case. I kept my voice neutral, professional. Conflict of interest. He shuffled through Thorne's file. Though I'm guessing that's why you're here. They want me to represent Serafina. Bad idea. He looked up, his expression softening. Elara, there's something you should see. He slid a USB drive across the desk. My fingers closed around it, cold metal against sweating palms. Security footage from the Metropolitan Club, dated 2 days before your wedding. He paused. Watch it alone. My phone buzzed. Another text from Serafina. I ignored it. What's on it? The truth about why Thorne really came to that club that night. Marcus leaned forward. And why your father was there too. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. Dad, never. Your father knew about Thorne's gambling long before the wedding. He tried to buy him off. Make him leave you alone. Marcus's words hit like body blows. But Thorne had other plans. And your sister. She wasn't just collateral damage. I stood up, the chair scraping against carpet. You're lying. Watch the footage. His eyes held mine. Then decide if you really want to help them. Outside his office, I found 3 missed calls from Mom and another text from Serafina. Please don't watch whatever Marcus shows you. Let me explain first. My hands shook as I drove to my apartment. The USB drive felt like a loaded gun in my pocket. 2 years of believing I knew exactly what happened that night, exactly who had betrayed whom. But Dad's heart attack, Serafina's desperation, Marcus's warning, nothing fit the story I'd been telling myself. I plugged in the drive, cursor hovering over the video file. One click would change everything. Again. My phone lit up with one more message. I did it to protect you.
Dad.
I pressed play. The family gathered in Dad's study, the security footage still burning in my mind. Mom perched on the armrest of Dad's chair, while Serafina stood by the window, arms wrapped around herself. The setting sun cast long shadows across the room, turning familiar faces into strangers. You knew. I placed the USB drive on Dad's desk. You knew what Thorn was planning, and instead of telling me, you made a deal with him. Dad's fingers trembled on his armrest. I was protecting you. By paying him to leave? My laugh came out bitter. How did that work out? Alara, Serafina stepped forward. And you. I turned to her. The affair wasn't real, was it? You got close to him to expose him, but something went wrong. She flinched. He threatened to hurt you if I didn't play along. The photos, the garden scene, it was all staged. For what? To protect me from marrying a gambling addict. The pieces weren't fitting. There's more. Mom stood suddenly. Tell her, Gideon. All of it. Dad's face aged 10 years in seconds. Thorn wasn't just gambling. He was laundering money through my company. When I discovered it, he threatened to implicate me unless. He stopped, chest heaving. Unless what? Unless he got control of the company through marriage. Serafina's voice cracked.
To you.
The room spun. 2 years of hate, of plotting revenge against my sister. All based on a lie. But not everyone was being honest, not yet. What aren't you telling me? I watched their faces. Marcus showed me footage from that night, but there's a second video file I couldn't open. Serafina went pale. Mom started to speak, but Dad cut her off. Don't. Someone died that night. Serafina's words fell like stones. At the club. That's why Thorn's really running. That's why the FBI is involved. My phone buzzed, Marcus calling. But before I could answer, a car pulled into the driveway. Through the window, I saw Thorn step out, his face bruised, a gun visible under his jacket. He's here, Serafina whispered. And he knows we told you. The doorbell didn't ring. Thorn simply walked in, as if he still belonged here. His expensive suit was wrinkled, dried blood staining the collar. The gun stayed hidden, but his hand never left his jacket pocket. Family meeting without me? His smile hadn't changed, that same practiced charm that had once fooled me. How touching. Mom moved to shield Dad, whose heart monitor beeped faster. Serafina stepped between Thorn and me, her shoulders straight despite her trembling hands. The second video, I said, watching his face. The one from the club's back office. Who died, Thorn? Straight to business. That's my girl. He pulled out his phone, thumbed through it. Speaking of business, Marcus Chen just texted me about a very interesting conversation with you. Answer her. Serafina's voice cracked. Tell her what you made me help cover up. Thorn's charm vanished. What I made you cover up. That's not how I remember it, sweetheart. Tell her who pulled the trigger. The room went silent except for Dad's monitor. Serafina's shoulders sagged, and suddenly I knew why she'd agreed to the fake affair, why she'd let me hate her for 2 years. It was self-defense, she whispered. He was going to expose everything, ruin Dad. When he attacked you, you shot him. The words felt like ash in my mouth. And Thorn helped you hide it, for a price. Thorn's smile returned. Your sister's very grateful. Aren't you, Sarah? You bastard. I stepped forward, but Serafina caught my arm. Don't, she pleaded. He'll show the real video to Marcus. To everyone. Thorn pulled out the gun, casual as checking his watch. Here's how this ends. Alara signs the company over to me. Properly this time. Serafina keeps playing the devoted wife. And everyone lives. Or, my voice sounded distant, hollow. Or, I make a call, and the video shows your sister executing a man in cold blood. He checked his phone again. You have 30 seconds to decide. The maple tree outside cast shadows across his face, turning him into something barely human. And in that moment, I finally understood what real revenge looked like. I'll sign. I reached for the papers, but Serafina grabbed my wrist. Don't. Her voice shook. There's something else you need to know. Thorn stepped forward, gun steady. Careful, Sarah. I'm pregnant. The words hung in the air like smoke. And it's not yours, Thorn. His composure cracked just for a moment. The gun wavered. The night at the club, she continued, when that man attacked Alara, I didn't shoot him, but someone did. Mom's sharp intake of breath drew my attention. Dad's monitor beeped faster, but his face showed no surprise. Only resignation. It was me. Dad's voice was steady. I followed you girls that night. When I saw him grab Alara, Thorne's laugh cut through the tension. Sweet plot twist. But the video clearly shows what you edited it to show. I pulled out my phone, Marcus's last text glowing on the screen. While you were watching me, the FBI was searching your cloud storage. The original footage is already with the DA. You're bluffing. But Thorne's hand trembled. You blackmailed my sister, made her pretend to betray me, all to cover up your money laundering. I stepped closer. But you never knew who really pulled the trigger that night. You just saw an opportunity. Stay back. The gun pointed at my chest. Shoot me, and the FBI team outside has probable cause. A lie, but Thorne's eyes darted to the window. It's over. Not quite. His finger tightened on the trigger. Your father still killed a man. In defense of his daughter. Serafina moved to stand beside me. Any jury will understand that. And your baby? Thorne's smile turned cruel. How will it feel, growing up knowing its mother is a coward who let her sister suffer for 2 years? Better than growing up with you. She placed a protective hand over her stomach. The baby's father knows everything. He's been helping Marcus build the case against you. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Thorne's face contorted, and for a moment, I thought he would shoot. Instead, he laughed, a broken, hollow sound. Well played, Alara. He lowered the gun. You finally got your revenge. No, I said, watching red and blue lights flood the room. I got justice. 6 months later, I stood in the hospital nursery, watching my niece sleep through the glass. She had Serafina's eyes and none of Thorne's shadows. Marcus called. Serafina joined me, still moving carefully after the delivery. Thorne took the plea deal. 20 years. And Dad. Self-defense ruling stands. No charges. She touched the glass separating us from her daughter. I never thanked you for understanding why I did it. You protected me by letting me hate you. The irony still stung. That's what families do, apparently. Protect each other in all the wrong ways. Mom appeared with coffee, her smile easier these days. Your father's asking for you both. He has something to show you. In Dad's home office, the old family photo still hung behind his desk, the one from before everything fell apart. But next to it now was a new frame. Found this while cleaning out the storage room. Dad handed it to me. The photograph showed Serafina and me as children, building a sandcastle at the beach. I remembered that day. How the waves kept destroying our work, but we kept rebuilding, stronger each time. I've been thinking about revenge, I said, studying our younger faces. How it's like that sandcastle. No matter how perfectly you build it, the tide always comes. And justice? Serafina asked softly. Justice is choosing to build something new instead. I placed the photo back on Dad's desk. Speaking of which, the company paperwork is ready. Joint ownership, like we discussed. Dad's eyes widened. Alara, you don't have to. I want to. I turned to Serafina. Partners? She hugged me, careful not to cry and smudge her makeup. Some wounds would take longer to heal, but we had time. Later, holding my niece, I noticed she had my grandmother's chin, the one who'd always said family was like a mirror. You see yourself in the broken pieces, but you can choose how to put them back together. The baby grabbed my finger, her grip surprisingly strong. In that moment, I understood, sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting better.